The Disneyland Limited, now leaving for a grand circle tour of the Magic Kingdom. All passengers board.
Star Tours announces the boarding of the Endor Express. All passengers, please prepare for immediate boarding.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. To those guests who've just joined us, welcome. For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the door.
Please keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the train and remain seated at all times. Now, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
I am Sam, the American Eagle, and I am proud to introduce the Grand Circle Tour podcast, a celebration of Disney parks, but mostly the American ones. I really like these guys.
Hey gang, welcome to another exciting adventure of the Grand Circle Tour podcast. I'll be your host today, Captain Stan Solo, and joining me today are two of my favorite co-hosts. I have Jungle Skipper Jay. Jay, how are you today, and Walt's up?
Aloha, Stan. I am fantastic. How are you?
I am amazing, but you already know that. You have a waltz up for us today, Jay?
I have a double waltz up, and I'll be real quick about it. It's what I'm listening to and what I'm reading. I got the Legacy Collection version of The Lion King, and I haven't heard The Lion King in a really, really long time, and I've forgotten what a good score this is, and getting to hear the whole thing for the first time. 2 thumbs up, loving it. And what I'm reading is a book called Skipper Stories, True Tales from Disneyland's Jungle Cruise. And it is not safe for work. I will not share some of these stories on air. We'll talk later.
Okay. Sounds like it might be an interesting one. Also, my other favorite co-host, Mindy, our tour guide. How are you today? And Walt's up.
I'm so good, Stan. How are you? Walt,
I am amazing, but you know that.
You're always fantastic in your colorful, amazing shirts. If you don't know, Stan sews some amazing shirts, and I love seeing all his different shirts. Walt's up with me. So I don't have anything in particular in my life, but I was taken back this past week to give you a waltz up is that Disneyland is now offering, if you have an annual pass, you can take any of your friends to Disneyland with a one-day park hopper through the end of August for a whopping $99 because, in my opinion, Star Wars has bit them in the butt. So they're trying to get people in the park, and now you can go for $99. So there you go. Waltz up.
I'm wondering if part of that is because of D23 Expo being in August. Mm-hmm. And they know that people are going to be in town, and some people might not want to go for one day. So this way, it will entice them to go if they have a friend that's going.
I disagree.
No? You think it's
there? I saw a really good article today, and I could not have agreed with it more. I'll put it on our page. It really talks about 5 points of why Disneyland is so empty right now. And I think that Disney overestimated the fan base, for one. 2, the way they're doing it is the most California annual pass holders are blocked out. And 3, the people who are going are afraid that it's going to be busy, so they're staying away. And it's bit them in the tail. And really, there's not that much to experience inside Galaxy's Edge unless you have some major cash to drop outside of the attraction, the one attraction that's open. And you really have to go in with $500 to $700 to do the attraction or the other things that are available, like building a lightsaber or taking home a droid, getting your 2-hour wait for blue milk at the cantina, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's my take on it. You know how I feel. I love Disneyland. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, and that's okay. I'm going to go check it out. And I don't feel like I need to watch the films. I've only seen the first one, which is technically the 4th or 5th one or something. So I know Sam's like, good job, Mindy. Yeah, I think that's how it works. But that's what I say. Jay, did you have some thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny that you read that because the article I read is that people have Star Wars fatigue right now. They're kind of tired of Star Wars.
That's true.
Who are these people, and are they from this planet? When I was at just to quickly comment on that, when I was at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago, I asked a lot of people, are they going to go to Disneyland or Disney World with Galaxy's Edge there? And 100% of them said yes. Then I asked the question, are you going to wait till it fully opens, or are you going to go as soon as you can? And about 90% of them said, I'm going to wait until it's fully open. They're not going to waste going for a partial park. Also joining us today, we have a very special guest, a good friend of mine that I met once, but we've been friends online for a long time. We met at the Mall of America during a WW radio meetup, and we kind of kept in touch ever since. And Donnie told me, he said, if you ever come to Minnesota, I'll give you a complete tour of my zoo, no problem. So I'm holding him to that next time I come out to Minnesota. Donnie Crook from the Minnesota Zoo. He's an interpretive naturalist. Donnie, welcome aboard. And my first question is, what the heck is an interpretive naturalist?
Thank you for having me on first. And an interpretive naturalist is someone who teaches at the zoo. So I'm kind of like a zookeeper who goes around to different schools and libraries, children's hospitals, lots of different places with my animals, and just teaches everyone and lets people enjoy the natural world around them.
So you're like a animal people teacher. You teach people about animals.
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of people have people who come into their schools, or remember those big, huge liaisons as a kid where you'd go into the big gym and they'd see a guy with a big snake or an owl or something like that. Well, that's what I do.
That's got to be an amazing job. That's going to be so much fun.
I love my job.
Do you get paid for this?
Talk to kids all day long. I do. I get paid. Not a lot, but I do get paid.
That's a sweet gig. I got to tell you, I love that. And I forgot to ask you, Walt's Up.
What's up with me is what I am actually planning a trip down to Walt Disney World in late February for the Princess Half Marathon. We run it every single year, and this year I get to run it with my son, who is 7, Maxwell, and my daughter is going to run the 5K and the 10K with me, Isabella, who is 11.
Nice. And you run a lot of these marathons. I always see you standing there in front of the castle with your medals gleaming in the sun. It looks amazing. You make me jealous that you can
That's some of the best ways to see the animals in Walt Disney World, is just running through the parks or running through some of the back roads.
Oh, excellent. And speaking of animals, let's get today's topic. Today we're going to talk about the animals at Walt Disney World. And we're not going to talk about Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and Caw or any of those animals. We're talking about not even the animals that you see at Animal Kingdom that Walt Disney World wants you to see. We're going to talk about the animals that are wild, the ones that live on property. Now, these are lucky animals, if you ask me. Craig, we all want to live closer to Walt Disney World. These animals actually live in Walt Disney World. Think about it. That's like a great gig. And if I ever come back as an animal, I want to come back as a Disney duck. That's my goal, is to be able to live at the kingdom. It's got to be the sweet life right there. So let's talk a little bit about the different birds and fish and mammals and reptiles and insects that you might see at Walt Disney World. It's this topic that I've been very interested in for a long time, and I don't see too many podcasts talking about. That's why we brought Donnie on. He's our animal expert. He's a Disney fan. He does the Run Disney races all the time. Let's start off talking about some of the birds at Walt Disney World. Donnie, what type of birds can people see there?
Well, Walt Disney World is a great place. It's designed to be enjoyed by all the people here who come to the parks, but there are native animals that go there also. So there are lots and lots of animals you'll see at the park. Looking around, a lot of times, some of the first animals that people do see are the birds around the food courts. Disney tries their best to keep those animals away, but there's so much food around. There's so much people around. The birds, they're not stupid. They have learned that people equal food. So a lot of the times people will see those big, long legged birds that are white. They have a real long beak. Those are white ibises. And those are a native bird. Usually they should be found out in the swamps, out in the forest, out in the places like that. But since Disney World offers so much food for them, they enjoy the parks almost as much as we do without going on the rides.
And other than the food being very expensive at Walt Disney World, and you shouldn't share it with animals, why should you not share your food with the animals?
Animals, it's not what they're designed to eat. Some of these animals, they're designed to eat fish and frogs and other things like that. And the chicken nuggets, even though they are delicious for me, or the French fries that they're always stealing from little kids, or the stuff that they're stealing out of your stroller, it is really, really tasty, but it's not really good for them. So just keep that stuff away. And the animals, they may love it right now, but it's like us eating a whole candy bar every single day, and that's it. So there are healthier options for the animals to eat, and the stuff that they should be eating, like fish and frogs and other stuff like that. Or in the case of the ducks, the plant that are out in the water is what those guys should be eating, is a lot healthier for them, so that the animals stay a little bit healthier.
So what I'm hearing is when I go to the fish and chip shop in the Epcot, I can eat the batter and give the birds the fish. It's fine.
That is my favorite spot to eat in the whole animal or the whole park, is that fish and chip shop in England. And I would hate to share some of that delicious food with the ducks and the birds and all the other stuff that is begging for food.
I can't afford to share my food with them either.
But it's so entertaining to watch the birds because they're so brave. They will come right up to you. I don't know. I always find them a little bit entertaining.
A few trips ago, I actually saw a grackle, which is a little blackbird that you'll see. You'll see them all over the United States, but we saw a little grackle land on the front of a kid's stroller. Mom and Dad were just looking out over the water. Grackle lands right on the front of a stroller and steals a chip or a cracker or something. I don't know what the kid was eating, but stole it right out of the kid's hand, grabbed it, flew off, and kid was just giggling and laughing up a storm because the bird just stole his food. And it's stuff that the parents will probably never even know about, but that probably made that kid's trip right there, is just that bird just coming and interacting with them. And even though it's not supposed to happen, the kid was just giggling up a storm.
One of my favorite bird stories at Walt Disney World was I was Animal Kingdom, and a couple of these very large white birds, two of them flew fairly low over our heads. And there was an older couple in front of us, and one had said to the other, she says, "Now, were those real, or was that Disney magic?"
I've heard that exact same story before.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, they're good, but they're not that good. It's not. They don't have drones of live birds flying around.
Yep, you will see large white birds also. They're a little bit bigger than the ibises. Those are great egrets. They're a little bit taller birds. They have a long leg, long beak, and those guys usually like to hang out around Pecos Bills, right around that Adventureland. I've seen a lot of them hanging out over there. There's always the ducks everybody sees floating in the water, walking around on the Epcot World Showcase. And then also there's the other things that you will see, like the sparrows, the grackles, crows, and mourning doves that are pretty ubiquitous around the United States. And they're also ubiquitous. They're always all over the place around Walt Disney World.
On my last trip, there was a wild turkey walking around Pop Century, right where the luggage area was. And that was kind of cool. Every morning he was out. He was just wandering around. People weren't getting too close to him. He wasn't too afraid of people, but he would just hang out there. Every morning I walked by there, and he was there. It was kind of cool.
Marathon Weekend, which is last year in January, we saw that exact same turkey wandering around Pop Century. He wanders around the bus stops, and all the people were making, which park is he going to? Better not go to Magic Kingdom, or you might get made into turkey legs. But we see that wild turkey all the time there.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about birds, and but I do know they like churros. So I bought a churro, and I'm walking my merry own little way, and here comes the bird swooping down out of nowhere, and the churro disappears. I don't know if we've all had experiences like that, but it's really funny. And it's Disney people. We've all seen those pictures that your food disappears, but that happened to me.
Disney does try their best to keep the birds away by using things like they use recordings of birds that are in distress to keep birds away from a lot of those areas. They will use netting, and around the Eiffel Tower, which is scale replica, it would be a little bit weird to have a bird land on top of it. It would totally wreck the size of the tower. So Disney uses different types of paint, of other distractions or other deterrents to be able to keep the birds off of those.
Yeah, what I heard with the Eiffel Tower is that they put like a sticky substance on the tower itself that the birds don't like to land on. Huh. And that keeps them off of the tower, because it would completely ruin the forest perspective if you all of a sudden see No,
Yes.
I guess
It's like Godzilla. Nah.
Yeah, yeah. Look at the size of that crow.
It would look like a monster movie, yes.
Yeah. So they and then they put the spike strips on top of a lot of buildings and light posts just to keep the birds off from making a mess on the roofs of every building, because birds can make a mess. We all know that. Anyone who owns a car and just washed it knows that. Where I work, we put reflective mirrors that are on a solar powered battery, and they spin around, and just the flashing will keep the birds off of the building as well. It works really well. Let's move on to the water animals, the fish, frogs, turtles, those type of creatures that people might see at Walt Disney World. Have anybody here seen a wild fish at Walt Disney World, a pot of fish, or a frog, or a turtle, or Walt Disneyland? They have them there too.
I'm usually too excited to notice anything but where I'm going.
Mindy, have you ever seen a turtle or a frog at Disney World or Disneyland?
Can't say I have, unfortunately.
No? How about Donnie? How about you? What have you seen there?
We have seen lots of them. There are in the ponds right before World Showcase. There are large fish. There are large turtles in there also. There's giant softshell turtles we have seen a few times in there. And a lot of times over by Disney Springs, you'll see a lot of turtles in some of those waters that are bay. They're right at the lagoon.
Yeah, and I've seen turtles before at the Riverside at the Saskagula River. I've seen turtles swimming around there before too as well.
Yep.
And then, of course, if you're going to talk water, you're going to talk Florida, you're going to have alligators. How big do these alligators get in Walt Disney World? Is that something we should be extremely afraid of? I'm assuming we don't run up and feed them. What's the best thing to do if we spot an alligator on property?
We used to see them all the time out around there's a little pond right to the left as you're coming in on the buses to Animal Kingdom. There's a little pond there that had some little alligators in it that we would see. They were probably 2-3 feet long. And then right by Splash Mountain, right as those boats turn around and go back into where the paddle wheel is, there's always some little alligators right around there, which is kind of a weird spot. But we haven't seen them in a few years, and usually they're about 2-3 feet long. And Disney does a great job nowadays to keep them out in the parts of the parks or parts of their property that isn't located or isn't frequented by people.
So Donnie, you were talking to me earlier about what Disney does as far as the waterways, like they put a bank or something so the alligators aren't interested in being in those areas because they can't get to land, or what is that about?
I go around talking to cast members about the Port Orleans resorts. I always talk to the boat drivers as we're driving around. And if you notice on the Saskagula River or some of the other waterways, they don't go straight into the water. It actually will have a little wall, and then the grass will start right after that little wall. And that is to prevent the alligators from coming up. And since the alligators really like to just slide right out of the water, right into the water, that little wall will really help to keep them out there, because it's just a natural way to keep them out, so that they really don't want to come out of the water there. If they don't want to come out of the water there, they're not going to stick around, and they're going to find a better spot where they can actually come out. And speaking to the boat drivers is some of the best way to be able to get information about some of the different animals around.
Oh, that's excellent. That's pretty cool.
Is that why they retired the Davy Crockett canoes at Magic Kingdom? All the wildlife in the water?
I haven't heard about that. I was that was before my time going to Walt Disney World, so I'm not positive about that.
I think the Davy Crockett canoes were retired because the heat in Florida and people exercising by paddling a canoe was not working out.
You never got with me. The point is to splash everyone behind you.
Well, at least you get to be cool that way.
I don't think the new boat drivers enjoyed that very much, though. They always had great big guns, like right there. They forgot to do leg day because it was just all on their arms.
Now,
they still have them at Disneyland, though, so we can look at their arms all day long.
Now, I know your favorite animal, which happens to be my absolute worst animal, is the snakes. I cannot handle snakes at all. But this is your favorite animal. So what type of snakes can we see at Walt Disney World? Is every single one of them safe to pick up, or should we ignore them? What's happening there?
The snakes I love to work with at the Minnesota Zoo, we get to work with giant pythons. We get to work with boa constrictors. We get to work with everything from smaller snakes. Are a lot different than the ones you'll see down in Florida. Most of the time you will see snakes down in Florida. They are going to be harmless. They're going to be ones that if you just leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone. If you don't know 100% what it is, I would suggest just leaving it alone. And even if you do know 100%, just let the animal be. There's no reason to go pick it up. There's no reason to do any of that stuff. Most of the snakes you'll see down in Florida are little corn snakes. It's the same snake you'll find in a lot of local pet stores and pet shops. They're native to the southern part of America, and those ones are just a little harmless. They get to be about 2 to 3 feet long. They are usually like an orange and red color. We saw one at Port Orleans Riverside on my last trip. We were walking across one of the bridges. The gentleman goes, "Snake, snake!" And we ran back, and he's like, "I don't know what it is." I'm like, "It's a corn snake. It's harmless. It's small." The gentleman reached down. It bit him right on the little finger, and he screamed like a little girl. Looked at his kids. The kids looked right back at him, and he reached down again, bit him on the finger, and he screamed a little. He screamed again, and the snake slid off into the forest. And that another snake on my last trip down, which was during the Princess half marathon weekend last year. I was running the half marathon. I got to mile 8, and I saw a snake on the side of the road. It was definitely dead, right in front of the Grand Floridian, and ran up a few blocks. Said, "Hey, wait, that was a little water moccasin." Ran back, took a picture of it, and then had to run even faster to catch up with the rest of my group. Water moccasins are a venomous species. They can be dangerous to people. That is the only one I have ever heard of at Walt Disney World. I looked on a few different sites. I've talked to a few different cast members. They don't see them too much around where the people are, but that is one of the ones that if you do see it, just leave it alone. I actually took a picture next to it, so. What
the water moccasin? How would you could tell that this is what you're dealing with?
They have a triangular head. They're a little bit of a dark background. Their back is a little bit black. They are quite a little aggressive little snakes from what I've heard of. I don't get to work with those guys, and I've never actually seen a live one, but I did see that one at right in front of the Grand Floridian last trip.
I seem to recall seeing a YouTube video quite a few years ago. I'm talking like 10 years ago maybe, where it was a black moccasin in the pool at Riverside. In the swimming pool, and there was a couple of cast members trying to get it out.
I haven't seen one of those. I haven't seen that video, but I had boat drivers, and they say they see them out where they park their boats and a few other spots where guests aren't allowed to go, but they do see water moccasins and other snakes out that way.
Yeah, I think if I saw a large snake at Disney World, I probably wouldn't go back to Disney World. That might be the deal breaker for me. Never mind the rising price.
The first time I went there, I'm like, "Do you guys ever have snakes here?" "No, we never see snakes." "No, I'm not scared of them. I just want to see one." "No, we still don't have snakes here," is what the cast members told us. We had to find some of the ones that actually knew what they were talking about to talk to us about it.
And then there's insects everywhere, especially in Florida. I've seen banana bugs. I keep hearing about love bugs. I don't think I've ever actually seen a love bug. I don't seem to go during that time of year. And then mosquitoes and spiders and what other things. Now, I did see a large spider one. Jay?
I have to stop real quick. Stan, what is a love bug? Because that means different things to different people. I think of a VW.
Well, that's what I think of too. That's exactly what I think of. And I hear people talking about all the love bugs in Walt Disney World. And I'm like, hey, I want to go to Walt Disney World. They got love bugs there.
Are you talking about like cockroaches? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, flying insect. When I first went to Walt Disney World, I read about these so-called bugs and brought off and all this, stuff. And then I never experienced it. I've never had issues with bugs at Walt Disney World. They do pretty well with keeping away the insects. And I know that, I'm sure Donnie will talk about it, but they have ways to keep the mosquitoes away and going around to the different swamps and the marshlands and whatnot.
Okay, so Donnie, what do they do to keep the love bugs and what is a love bug? Does anybody really know? Other than the Volkswagen Beetle then?
Herbie is the only love bug that I know of. But Disney does do a great job of keeping insects away, especially the ones that can carry diseases and things like that. What they will do is they have a really extensive program to monitor where these mosquitoes are breeding, and they will use a lot of different natural methods and other methods to keep these mosquito numbers down, because a lot of these mosquitoes can carry germs, they can carry diseases. And the parks have actually been, frequently as we go, I don't think I've ever been bitten by a mosquito at Disney World. So they must be doing something right, because as hot and as humid as you think there'd be a ton of mosquitoes down there, but they do a great job of keeping the mosquito numbers down for the safety and the comfort of their guests.
Yeah, my sister-in-law went, I think it was this spring, and she messaged me saying that the mosquitoes were completely out of control, that it is going to ruin. There was her first day there, and she's never seen mosquitoes so bad in Florida ever. And she just says, we don't know what to do. We're going to go buy some mosquito repellent. And I said, you know what, give it a day. Tomorrow they'll be gone. Disney will take care of them. And she never replied back to me. She said, okay, I trust you. You know what you're talking about. She never messaged me back or anything. And then when she came back from her trip, I said, how were the mosquitoes after you messaged? I completely forgot there was mosquitoes there that one day. She says, I never saw them again for the rest of the trip. She says, I don't know what they did, but they were gone. So I know that they do have the purple martin hoses all over property. They have them all the way along the Sascagoula River. They have them at Epcot. They use chickens to eat mosquitoes. Is that something?
Yeah, they use chickens to keep the number of mosquitoes down, and they can monitor these chickens also for other diseases and things like that. But they use chickens to keep the number of mosquitoes down. It's one of their secret weapons against the animals that would plague us if they didn't do these kind of things.
I never heard of that. I grew up in farm country, but I guess that's the thing. The other animal, the insect that I like is the spider. I think spiders are cool. As much as I dislike snakes, I do enjoy spiders. And I have seen a fairly large spider. It was about an inch big. It was kind of yellowish and black. I took a nice picture of it, but I didn't want to get too close because I'm not sure if this thing is poisonous or what. Are there poisonous spiders in Florida? Is this something people should be aware of or alert of? It was an Animal Kingdom one that I saw.
All spiders are venomous. It just actually depends on how big the spider actually is, or how small it is, or how much venom it has. Most of the ones around most of the ones around the parks are going to be safe. They're going to be totally harmless to people, and they're going to be doing their job of eating all the bugs that are going to be wrecking our vacation. So if you do see the spiders, just leave them alone, because they are doing a great job of keeping the number of mosquitoes, the number of other bugs down, so that those bugs aren't biting us. There's a lot of orb weaver spiders and other garden spiders that will build those big webs that they can use to catch lots and lots of bugs.
Mm-hmm. So, Donnie, I want to ask you real quick about the brain-eating amoeba. Is this really a thing down in Florida?
This is a real thing, and this is the reason that Disney does not let people swim in their lakes. This is the reason that you can't go going into the Seven Seas Lagoon or any of those other places like that. This is the reason that River Country was closed, is because of these little amoebas, which are teeny tiny little animals that can get into your body, and they can make you really, really sick. They can also be fatal. So when Disney says stay out of the water, they mean stay out of the water, because these are the animals that will make you sick, and they are natural to Florida. It's just something that they deal with down there, and they deal with it by not letting people go into the waters where these things are found.
So stay out of the damn lakes, as Pete Warner would say. Let's move on to mammals. Now, this, I think, is where we're going to have the most variety of animals that people might see at Walt Disney World and at Disneyland, too, because I want to talk a little bit about Disneyland. And one of my favorite animals is Walt Disney World and Walt Disneyland and the entire Disney company's mascot is a mouse. They do not want mice on their property, and Disneyland has a unique way of controlling this. How do they do that?
Disneyland has a really cool way to keep their number of mice and rats down. What they will do is use cats, regular house cats. These are feral cats, and Disneyland will actually spay and neuter these cats, and the cast members will take care of them. These cats even have a Twitter feed. It is twitter.com/DisneylandCats. And it is the cats talking, and then the cast members translating what the cats actually mean. Most of the time, the cats are asking for food or pictures or something like that.
I got to check this Twitter page out. That sounds like a funny, adventurous page.
What's it called again?
It's very hilarious. Disneyland Cats. It's twitter.com/DisneylandCats.
Oh, that's so cool. So I've seen cats at Walt Disney World. I've seen one at Epcot, and I've seen one at the Contemporary, just kind of wandering around. The one at Epcot was right near the Seas Pavilion. Does Disneyland World do the same thing, or I can't find anything online about what Walt Disney World does as far as controlling the mice population?
I have not found anything about Disney World cats. Disneyland cats are all over the place. You see pictures of them. You see interviews with people who know about them. You see stars who interview all about these Disneyland cats. Disney World, I have seen one page about a cat that was walking around the campground. Disney World does a wee bit different thing. What they will do is they use snakes. Stan's favorite animal they will actually use. They will actually use black racers, which are completely harmless snakes, and they will just have these snakes around where people aren't. And they do such a good job of catching the snakes that it's a nice, easy way. They don't have to use as much pesticide. They don't have to use as much rodenticide. They don't have to use as many traps because they use these snakes, and that's their natural food is the mice and the rats. So it keeps the number of those guys really far down. And since I've never seen one, they must be doing a really good job of keeping them hidden because not a lot of people will go out looking for them like I do.
So if you're a mouse and you're listening to this, go where the people are because that's where the snakes aren't. You'll be safe.
So Stan, what you're saying is Ariel wanted to be as far away from snakes as she could.
Because she wants to be where the people are. I saw what you did there.
Ariel O'Gill.
So we have rabbits, we have squirrels. Those are pretty common to see. What are some of the more harder to see animals that you might see on property?
There are armadillos that are the size of a small dog. There are 9-banded armadillos are what these guys are called. And I see them a lot of times digging underneath the monorail track, heading out to Magic Kingdom. There are deer all over the place. I've been seeing a lot more articles about a lot more of the deer that are found on the roadways going out by the campgrounds. And also there are the opossums, the skunks. If you take the running path between the Wilderness Lodge and the campground, you will see deer, you'll see possums, you'll see skunks, you will see lots of other things. And just like some of the other ones, just leave them alone and they'll leave you alone.
Now, another animal that's native to Florida that I don't know if they've ever appeared on Walt Disney World property. I never really found any information on it, but is the panther, is a native wild cat. Have you heard any reports of a panther being on property ever?
I've heard a few reports of it. I asked some of the cast members. They said that they've never seen them. I've seen one report from like a lady who said that she saw one out by the running track by the Wilderness Lodge. Other than that, I've never seen a report of a panther or any other large cat like that around Animal Kingdom or around Disney World.
Oh yeah. No, I haven't heard any reports at all. So yeah, it's very rare then if you do see a panther. And again, stay away. Don't go pet it.
Yes. Definitely.
Pretty much with all these animals at Walt Disney World, don't go chasing them or petting them or feeding them. Just let them be. Does anybody have anything they want to add on tonight's adventure? Jason, Mindy?
No, I'm just enjoying listening, really.
Yeah. No, I'm good. Very informative. I just don't know a lot about animals to
so we glossed over one of my favorite animals that we do see at the parks all the time. Whenever you go around the rocks, whenever you go around a railing, you always see those little lizards. Those little lizards are all over the place. You'll see little kids trying to catch them. You'll see dads trying to catch them. You'll see moms screaming in terror like my wife does. You'll see lots and lots of things just like that. Those are little anoles. They are totally harmless. They're not going to do anything to you. And you can catch them. They will bite. Their bite doesn't hurt. But you do see them all over the place. And those guys, one of the species that you will see is native to the area, and one of them has been brought in on ships and other places like that. But they're totally harmless. You see them all over the time. They're kind of fun to catch. I've caught 2 of them. And
how do you
have
catch
to put a little
one?
bit of effort into it, though, because they are pretty scamperous. They're really fast. You really have to jump on your knees and go and really put all out to go down and catch one. And you look kind of like a fool. My kids laughed at me, but I caught him. I took a picture with him, and then I let him go.
We need to have a catching lizards with Donnie Facebook page.
Oh, that'd be great.
that would be something.
A video of it. We'll just put up a video of me with holes in my knees trying to catch the little lizards.
Skins, shins. trying to catch these
yes,
lizards.
That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, and they're cute as heck. I enjoy seeing them around Walt Disney World. You sure as heck don't see them up here in Canada. And I'm guessing you don't in Minnesota either.
Coming from Minnesota, they're always fun to see because we don't have little lizards up here. So seeing those little guys run around is great.
Yeah, that was great. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Donnie. This has been a blast and very informative. I really enjoyed this. This is one of my favorite topics, is talking about animals. It was wonderful having you on, and I'm going to take you up on that offer. Someday I'm going to get back to Minnesota, and I'm going to go pop into your zoo and expect a grand circle tour of your zoo, as it were.
I would love to give you a grand circle. We have an amazing zoo in Minnesota. If anyone's ever in the Minnesota Zoo, we have amazing animals. And Stan, I would love to give you a tour of it.
And that's in Apple Valley, Minnesota?
It's in Apple Valley. It's just south. It's about 10 minutes, 20 minutes south of the Twin Cities. So if you fly into the Twin Cities, it's about 10 minutes south of there.
Excellent. I drive when I go. I don't fly. Well, I fly for layovers, but I drive down to Minnesota about once every 20 years. And it's been getting close to 20 years now, it feels like. It's a great city.
Gotcha.
I want to go see another Twins game. Next time the Jays are playing, maybe I'll zip down there or something. Thank you for listening at home, whether this is your first time listening or if you've been listening to us since day one. We appreciate you tuning in. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. And if you're looking for a trip or a tour or a vacation, Pixie Dusted Dreams Travel and Events is our recommended travel agent. So you can give them a call, give Jason a call, give George a call.
George and I are both travel agents with Pixie Dusted Dreams Travel and Events, and we would love to help you plan your next trip. You can contact either one of us.
There you go. Jason got his little speech in. And with that, Ken, take it away.
If you would like to keep the adventure going after the show, be sure to like our Facebook friends page, Grand Circle Tour Magical Ticket Holders. While on Facebook, like our group page, Grand Circle Tour. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Grand Circle Tour Podcast, as well as Instagram, GCT Podcast, and our YouTube channel, Grand Circle Tour. If you would like to send us a message, you can email us at gctpodcast@gmail.com. T-shirts and other fun merchandise can be found at tpublic.com. Simply search Grand Circle Tour Podcast. If you enjoyed your adventure, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Only one rule, make it good. Thank you for riding with us, and welcome home.
You'll be fine, partner.